This is a journey. Greetings and salutations, people of the YouTube Nation. You are now listening to the premier voice for entertainment and information. Alright, so Happy New Year's, folks. It is January 1st, 2026. So you know what that means. Happy first day of Black History Month. Now, I know what you may be thinking. Arbiter, you handsome devil. It's not February 1st yet. You know what my answer to that is? It doesn't matter what you think. Every month is Black History Month in this household. You know, when I was a wee lad and I was in high school, one of my friends said, you know, it's kind of messed up that they have the shortest month be Black History Month. And you know what? That is kind of racist. You know, they could have picked March. They could have picked, May, July. July is a lovely month. Of all the months they could have picked, they picked the one that is the shortest. How messed up is that, right? It wasn't until I became an adult and I began to research this that I actually realized that, no, it wasn't actually the man, the white man. It was actually an African American man by the name of Carter G. Woodson, Dr. Carter G. Woodson. He actually was the son of formerly enslaved people who was born on December 19, 1875 in Virginia. He attended college at the University of Chicago, and then later in 1912 he would obtain his doctorate degree from the University of Harvard in history, right? So 3 years later, actually, so in 1915, 3 years after obtaining his doctorate degree in history from the University of Harvard, he was actually invited by his friends and colleagues from the University of Chicago in order to attend Washington, D.C., in order to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Emancipation. Now, some of you are asking, wait a sec, shouldn't the 50th anniversary of the Emancipation be on 1913 because the Emancipation Proclamation was signed in 1863? Now, haha. Now, despite what our dearest leader would have you believe, executive orders are not law, right? So yes, the Emancipation Proclamation was indeed an executive order signed by Lincoln on 1863. It wasn't until it was passed by Congress and then ratified by the states that it became law, and that was in 1865. So yes, that's why the 50th anniversary was celebrated on 1915. Here's the thing. With that out the way, back to 1915. Even though our dearest old leader would have you say so. In 1915, in Washington, D.C., the 50th anniversary celebration of the Emancipation actually took place. And over the course of 3 weeks, I think about 5,000 to 6,000 African Americans from all around the country came to see all the exhibits that highlighted all the achievements that African Americans had made ever since slavery was ended. Well, except for jail, but we'll talk about that some other time. Now, so after the 3 week celebration had ended, Dr. Woodson was really inspired, right? So he wanted to keep the whole thing going. So before he even left Washington, D.C., he met up with a few of his colleagues, and then they funded the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History. Furthermore, he hoped that people would popularize the findings that his researchers and himself made. By 1920, he was urging a lot of black organizations in order to publish his findings and help popularize them. It wasn't until he reached out to his fraternity brothers of Omega Psi Phi that they actually listened, and in 1924, they actually responded with the Negro History and Literature Week. The name would later change to Negro Achievement Week. The outreach was good, but I think for Dr. Woodson, he wanted something greater, right? So he felt that the burden would fall upon the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History that he funded 9 years ago. So then he sent out a press release announcing Negro History Week in February of 1926. Why February of all months, right? As it turns out, Lincoln was actually born on February 12th. And as we all know, he signed the Emancipation Proclamation, right? He didn't actually free the slaves, though. It was actually the Union Army, along with many African American soldiers, that fought for their own freedom, right? So, my friend and mentor, Joe, shout out to Joe if you're watching this. He used to say that Lincoln did not actually free the slaves freed Lincoln in a way, right? Or I guess saved Lincoln in a way. I'm probably, misremembering it, but something along those lines. So, yeah. And also, Frederick Douglass, had a birthday on February 14th. So it was actually Frederick Douglass who helped convince Lincoln to actually sign the Emancipation Proclamation because he didn't want to at first. But yeah, like I said, it was actually something that they did in order to help. So after Lincoln died, a lot of black people, understandably, commemorated his death, right? And a lot of white Republicans as well commemorated his death. Obviously, Republican back in 1865 or 66 was not this isn't definitely not the same as a Republican now, right? When Frederick Douglass died in the late 1890s, black people began to celebrate or commemorate, I guess, his death, and they did that both in the second week of February, right? Because he had a birthday that was in February 14th. So Dr. Woodson wanted to use the tradition of people celebrating the history of two great men in Frederick Douglass and Abe Lincoln and turn it into the study of a great race, as he put it, right? The African American. So there you go. Negro History Week kept going and going for decades until it grew into a month-long celebration. It kind of sucks that Frederick Douglass or Abe Lincoln didn't have birthdays in like May or something, right? So we could have had 31 months, but it is what it is. But like I said before, every day is Black History Day. Don't you forget that. I know you have a lot of choices when it comes to Earthtown. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're right here with me. I appreciate that. Once again, I go by the name of Omar Arponada, aka Arponer, aka your pro lefties teacher. So thank you for flying Arponer tonight. Peace.